American heart, and it's time. And I won't.
What an honor. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. We love this section of the world. It's a beautiful section. We appreciate it very much. And I'm thrilled to be back in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania so much. Thank you. This is the state where the story of American independence began. It's the state where the American Constitution was signed. Think of that. And 3 days from now, this is the state that will save the American dream. On November 3rd, we're going to win Pennsylvania, and we are going to win 4 more years in that very beautiful White House. We're gathered today in a very special place. In the harrowing days of December 1776, when the American Revolution seemed lost, General George Washington made his headquarters at this Bucks County farmhouse to plan his famous crossing of the Delaware. On Christmas night, he led what remained, and remained, very little remained, of that ragtag Continental Army on a daring midnight raid. It was a tough night. It was a violent night. They marched through 9 miles of ice and snow, many without boots on their feet, leaving a trail of blood in their wake. At dawn, they seized victory at Trenton. Their sacrifice turned the entire tide of the war. Those soldiers came from every walk of life, but what united them all was their devotion to the principle of self-government. They were determined to live in a country where power belongs to the people. That priceless inheritance is at stake just 3 days from now, and a great red wave is forming. As sure as you're there, as sure as we're here together, that wave is forming, and they see it on all sides, and there's not a thing they can do about it. This is the fundamental question facing every voter in America. Do you want to be a nation ruled by the corrupt political class, or do you want to be governed by the American people? I ran for office 4 years ago because I could not sit by and watch any longer as a small group of Washington insiders continued to get rich, bleeding American dry. You're just bleeding America dry. Think of it. Closing our factories, opening our borders, outsourcing our industries, and letting foreign countries ravage our middle class. Career politicians spent trillions of dollars fighting foreign wars while letting our own cities crumble and decay. Here in Pennsylvania, you know this bitter and very painful betrayal, all too well, better than most. The corrupt Washington class launched an economic war against this state. For decades, they targeted your steel mills, shut down your plants, and sent millions of your jobs overseas, all while lining their pockets with special interest cash. And no one embodies this betrayal and treachery more than Joe Biden. And worst of all, the suppressed media and big tech refuses to cover the crime. They refuse to cover. We've learned so much over the last 2 weeks. For 47 years, he supported every disastrous trade deal that enriched his cronies and impoverished your state. He wiped out Pennsylvania steel. He was the cheerleader for NAFTA and China's entry into the World Trade Organization. Pennsylvania lost 50% of your manufacturing jobs after those Biden disasters. Then Biden pushed the job-killing Paris Climate Accord, an economic nightmare for Pennsylvania miners and every worker in our country. He backed TPP, which would have extinguished the American auto industry forever. Forever. These betrayals not only made Biden's donors rich, they made his family rich. And as we know, he profited from the misery of unleashed work and horror given to Pennsylvania workers. He made a lot of money, and his family made a lot of money, and nobody knew about it until just recently. At the debate, I looked at him and said, Joe, you were here for 47 years, and you left only 3.5 years ago. Why didn't you do these things that you want done? Why didn't you fix it, Joe? And as you know, because I assume a number of you watched the debate, but as you know, he just looked at me and shrugged. In fact, the anchor looked up and said, "Why did you do it?" She couldn't believe it. You know, she was on his side. She said, "Why did you do it? Why did you do it, and why did you say it?" In 2016, Pennsylvania voted to fire this failed and corrupt political establishment, and you voted for an outsider as president who is finally putting America first. And if I don't look like a typical politician, that's very simple. It's because I'm not a politician. If I don't always play by the rules of Washington and the Washington establishment, it's because I was elected to fight for you, and I fought harder for you than any president in the history of our country. From day one, Washington insiders have been trying to stop me because they do not own me and they do not control me. They want control. They don't like what I'm doing. They don't like what I've said to the Big Pharma, the drug companies, the #1 lobbyist in the world, #1 lobbyist in our country. They didn't like that I instituted favored nations so that we now pay the lowest prices in the world for prescription drugs instead of the highest prices in the world. If these corrupt forces succeed in electing Joe Biden, Washington will see to it that another another outsider never becomes president again. It'll never happen again. And nobody has done in 3.5 years, nobody, no administration, no president, what we've done and what we've accomplished. And it's not even challenged. Nobody even challenges that. They'll take back control, and they will never, ever give it up. This once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to beat the corrupt politicians will be lost forever, and they know it. They're fighting so hard, and they hate what they're seeing because they're not looking at fake suppression polls anymore. Now they're looking at the numbers that are pouring in, and they don't like the numbers that they're seeing in Florida and in Ohio and in North Carolina. And we think in Pennsylvania, although those numbers come in late. We think in Pennsylvania, they don't like it. They don't like it. They don't like what they see. And I just want to tell you that we have really, things have worked out so well for our country. Nobody had any idea that anything like this could ever happen. If you look at what's going on with, over the last 4 years, we've been building the biggest, strongest, and most secure middle class in human history. We built the most powerful military anywhere in the world. And over the next 4 years, we will make it even stronger, stronger like nobody thought even possible. Do not be intimidated by our opponents' angry and menacing tone, because if we were, we would never have been able to accomplish what we've accomplished. In truth, they are actually terrified of you, the people. They're terrified. They're terrified that you will discover that you have the power to end their corrupt rule once and for all. We have to do it. When you see what's going on, we have to do it. We don't have a choice. Somebody said, "Do you enjoy this?" I said, "It's not a question of enjoyment. Believe it or not, I do. I shouldn't. Have to go check something, but I shouldn't." But, today we're doing 3 rallies. Tomorrow we're doing 5, and the smallest crowd will be 25,000 people. Then on Monday, we're doing 5 or 6. And I can't tell you what's going to happen. I think we'll just go home and rest. But they don't get to decide this election. This is your choice. We have to be very careful. We have to be very, very careful, especially in this state, more than any other state. They say you have to be very, very careful. What happens in Philadelphia, we have to be everybody has to watch, vigilant. Your decision, your future is at stake. As your president, I don't answer to the special interests of no interest to me. I don't take instructions from donors and lobbyists. I don't care about them. I don't care about them. I don't take my orders from the media, or as I affectionately call them, the fake news media. And as you know, they've turned out to be far more fake than we ever thought. And they've really turned out to be corrupt. They are corrupt. They are really corrupt. The word fake is not strong enough, especially after what we've seen, where stories, major stories, the biggest story anywhere in the world is absolutely not covered. It's hard to have scandal when you have no coverage. And they work in conjunction with big tech, and they protect each other, and they protect the Democrats, because with the Democrats, you don't have somebody up talking like I do about them. So they can do whatever they want, and this will only lead to very bad things. I do what is right for America. I do what's right for America. It's made me a lot of enemies in Washington, but I wear their opposition as a badge of honor. Winston Churchill once said that it was a nation that had the lion heart. I had the luck to give it the roar. I gave it the roar, and there is a roar, and people hear it all over. They heard it 4 years ago, loud and clear. Probably the biggest thing to happen. They talk Brexit, they talk many, numerous things, but this is always number one. What happened? 2016, and I will say, 2016 was an incredible, earth-shaking event. But 2020, and I never thought I'd say this, 2020, what we're doing right now through Tuesday, what we're doing is far bigger. It's far bigger. I never thought I'd say it. I never thought 4 years ago, and you never did either, somebody would say that this is going to be the most important election, perhaps in the history of our country. It's really amazing. The greatest threat to American democracy is the concentration of power among a small group of unelected special interests. The big tech CEOs put in a position by us giving a law to them, Section 230. We've given them that power. And that can be taken away. That can be taken away. And probably has to be taken away. I see it better than all. I see it so obviously. I see it because of what I do on social media. For me, it's very easy to see. I see things that nobody would believe. The corporate media and the mega donors in Washington and Silicon Valley, they're all lining up behind an opponent that's going to do whatever they tell him to do. That's sleepy Joe Biden. It could have been the greatest. If you look, we look at the amount of money that he has raised, hundreds of millions, $300 million 1 month. But I could have been the greatest of all time. I could have been the greatest political fundraiser because as president, all I had to do is call Wall Street banks. I could have called the oil companies. I could have called all of the big companies. And every single one of them, and I know many of them, would have given me whatever I wanted. But I chose not to do that. And we did plenty. We have plenty. You can only buy so many commercials, When the airwaves are full and you can't buy any more, I'm saying, where are we going to spend it? Although we did spend, in our case, a lot on ground game, which they, I think, forgot to spend. As much money as they have. They're screaming in Florida, where's our ground game? Where's our ground? Well, it takes a long time. You know what? It took us a year and a half to build that ground game, so we'll see how it all works out. But they didn't do that. They decided to go a different route. But they took in massive amounts of money. I could have taken in much more than that. They did 350. I could have done that within an hour. The president is calling. He'd like you to send $25 million, please. Who's going to tell me no? Nobody. But the problem is when they call in 6 months needing a favor that's worth billions, it's very hard, especially me being a loyal person, not a dishonest person, but a loyal person. It's very hard for me to say, no, I don't want to take his call. No, his or her call. No, I don't want to do it. So it really, you're compromised. It would have compromised our nation. So I didn't want to do that. Joe Biden works for them. I know them very well. I know them far better than he does. I know him far better than he. Some are friends. Some are actually very surprised when I say, you don't have to bother. Don't worry. I don't think we can buy any more anyway, right? But he works for them. And when you see those numbers, 300, 350 million, so much they don't know what to do with it, where they're spending $25, $30 million on a congressional race that used to spend $500,000, you know something's going on. And it's not a good thing. And it's not the way I want to work. This was one opportunity to do something special. This isn't a company. This isn't making some money. This is one opportunity to turn our country around. And we're not going to blow it. So he works for them, not for you, and it is I who work for you. I am working for you. It's like, not used to that too much, but I've gotten used to it. And we have this great opportunity together, and our people tend to vote in particular state. You tend to vote on the 3rd. I could say go in and early vote. Don't wait till Tuesday. Vote today, vote tomorrow, vote on Monday. But I'm wasting a lot of time because you want to go, it's tradition, it's habit, it's the history of this state. Look at what you've done with this state. Look at the history of this state with respect to our country. And you want to go, so I won't even say go today, go tomorrow, go the next day, or go on the 3rd. We want election day. Thank you. Election day. And we have others like that too. We have others like that too. They want election day. It's going to be a great day. The more these corrupt forces oppose me, the more I know we are delivering real change, real progress, and historic victories for the American people. We have done great things with the country, including our military, our vets, the biggest tax and regulation cuts in history. We just received a poll. This was a real poll, not a suppression poll, where the vets gave us a 91% approval rating for the job that we're doing. Think of that, 91%, the highest ever. Over these last 4 years, we've been building the strongest and most secure middle class in human history. We have built the most powerful military in the world by far. Nobody has ever built what we've built. And when I came in, we had a depleted military. We had old planes. We used to get parts by going to the airplane graveyards and taking the old parts out of old planes that was sitting there rusting in the sun and crazy weather where they store them in the deserts. And that's what we were doing. We had a terribly depleted military. And now we have the best equipment anywhere in the world by far, all made in the USA. And as I say, we are the envy of every world. We are the envy of every world power. From China to Russia, North Korea, they look at us and they say, wow, what they've done. New jets, new fighter jets, bombers, tanks, missiles, rockets, nuclear. And just hope to God we never have to use it. Hope to God we never have to use it, but it's less likely that we'll ever have to use it when we have it. Okay? When we have it. We were in very bad shape militarily. A general came to see me, highly overrated general came to see me, actually. One of the world's most overrated generals, and he said, sir, we have no ammunition. Right at the beginning, you know what I'm talking about, because we could have had conflict. He said, sir, could you hold it off? We have no ammunition. And I said, General, no president should ever hear that statement again. We have no ammunition. Well, now we have so much ammunition. Our problem is we have no storage. And over the next 4 years, we will make it even stronger. It's going to keep us safe. Last night, our brave special forces rescued an American hostage in a faraway country. So incredible people. And I was in Fort Bragg yesterday, and I met a lot of these incredible, talented, strong, both physically and mentally, the strongest, the best in the world. But we had a mission sent to a faraway land where they kidnapped an American citizen, and the kidnappers wished they had never done it. And they went in with a large group, 0 casualties. We got our American citizen, young man, we got our young man back. But the other side suffered gravely, I can tell you that. Our nation salutes its courageous military, which brilliantly executed this operation. Very few people would have been able to do it. It was very complicated and very complex, tough area. We celebrate the safe return home of an American hostage. We've gotten many hostages home. And I pay nothing, can't pay. Once you pay, you'll have many, many more. We're 40-0. Robert O'Brien, who's doing a tremendous job, said to me, "Sir, you're 48-0. 48-0, think of that. We've brought many, many of them home. Some mostly in pretty good shape, some in very, very bad shape. Specifically, you know who I'm talking about. Came home in very bad shape, but sometimes that happens too. But we've brought many home, but we don't pay. If you pay, once you pay, your numbers will go up 1,000-fold. We're boldly standing up to China. We achieved the most secure border in American history, our southern border. We have attained, in just a short period of time, American energy independence. And if we're up to the opposing side with the Green New Deal, the Green New Dealers, AOC +3, and you add Pelosi and Schumer, and you add Joe Biden, who really doesn't understand, so you don't have to probably. They'll tell him what to do. He'll do whatever they tell him, whatever it takes. He'll say whatever it takes. With the sunglasses, or the sunglasses. I said, I don't think I'm going to do that, but I watched those sunglasses. I don't know. To me, it didn't work. We're bringing our jobs, our factories, our wealth, and our troops all back home. They're all coming home. They're all coming home. And instead of endless wars in countries that even you very sophisticated people in some cases have never even heard of, we're achieving one historic peace deal after another. If you look. Middle East, we already have 3 signed up. We have many countries want to sign. We're signing them rapidly. And even with Kosovo and Serbia, we're doing a trade deal with each, a routine trade deal. When I heard about it, I said, wait a minute. They've been killing each other for decades. They've been killing and killing for decades, each other, fighting all the time. We're doing a trade deal. They want it. They always want us. All of them want us. The whole world wants us. So we're in a great negotiating position. But I said, Kosovo, Serbia, we're doing a trade deal. You tell them we're not going to do the deal unless they make peace. And all of a sudden, they were hugging in the Oval Office. It's great, right? No. And it came through common sense, and it came for no money. Going to make a trade deal. We said, no, we're not going to make the deal unless you two start getting in. You're killing each other for decades and decades. That's all they do is they kill each other. And when I saw the 2 leaders hugging in the Oval Office, and there was I think they were exhausted, frankly. I think it was time. It was time, but somebody had to say, do it. Just seemed to make a lot of sense. I said, wait a minute, let's do it, and we did it. So I'm very happy about that. And thanks to our administration's unprecedented mobilization, we're now just weeks away from a mass distributing of a safe vaccine. We're really, we've got it. We've got great companies, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, Pfizer, all with a vaccine, all with the different versions of it, some similar concepts, but, and many other companies, and we're ready, we'll have that. And we will have it, but even if you didn't, I say it drives them crazy, we're rounding the turn. We're rounding that turn. We're rounding it. And our economy went down less than any economy anywhere in the world, and it went up faster by far. You know, they keep hearing about Europe. Well, they're not doing nearly as well. Seniors will be first in line for the vaccine, and the vaccine will be free because it's not their fault. It was China's fault. China did this to us. And our vaccine will eradicate the virus and end the pandemic once and for all. Americans will return to school and to life. By slashing red tape and cutting bureaucracy, we're producing this vaccine in record time. If Joe Biden were president, you wouldn't have this vaccine for 4 years. And he had his chance with the H1N1, he calls it in reverse, swine flu. which was a disaster. We've moved heaven and earth to produce the vaccine ahead of schedule and manufacture hundreds of millions of doses in advance, all ready to be shipped. And we have our military is going to be shipping it. Logistics. We have a general, that's what he does. He delivers troops. He said, sir, this is easy. We'll get it done very quickly. It's the most advanced medical operation anywhere in the world and in history. Thanks to the therapies we've accelerated, we have already reduced the mortality rate 85%. Think of that, down 85%. And our excess mortality rate is 40% lower than Europe's. And Europe has done a good job. It's a very brutal thing. Everyone thought Germany was doing great, 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 great. They're not doing great. Right now, you see what's going on over there with France, again, Spain and Italy. But we're doing great, but we just don't get credit for it. We don't get credit. And I don't want the credit personally, but I want the generals and the admirals and our great Vice President, Mike Pence, who worked so hard, and all of the people on the task force, and Jared Kushner, what he did, he's here someplace. But he was fantastic on the ventilators. You know, ventilators are very, very complex. Oh, look at that, Jared. He wants no praise. He couldn't care less. He truly couldn't care. Thank you, Jared. No, we had a tremendous ventilator, just a quick story. We had a tremendous ventilator problem because we weren't equipped for a thing like this. This is once in 100 years. It was 1918, we're talking about the Spanish flu. And we weren't equipped for that. And all of a sudden we're getting calls. We need 40,000 ventilators, like in New York. They needed far less than that, but they needed many, many ventilators. And other states are calling. We need ventilators. And it's a very complicated piece of equipment, as you can imagine, with pipes going down, heavily computerized. And people didn't know what to do, making them on a mass scale like this. Hospitals had very few of them. And Jared called up some of his genius friends. His brother's one of the most important people in Silicon Valley, smart family. They called up and they had these super brilliant young men come in. I mean, some of them were wearing undershirts. They were wearing a baseball cap. How much are you worth? About $1 billion, sir. Still, they had founded companies, sold their companies, but they were brilliant. One of them had roller skates on. And they wanted to throw him out of the White House. They said, sir, there's a kid here, undershirt and roller skates. I said, yeah, he's worth $2.5 billion, you know. But Jared called a whole group of people down. And to them, to us, to all of us, a ventilator is very complicated. To them, it's like the simplest machine they've ever seen. And they went to the automobile companies where they had excess plant capacity, and they went to various companies, and we started producing, within a short period of time, ventilators. And this story is just never told, and I don't think I've ever told it, not in this detail. We started producing ventilators in a short period of time at a level that nobody thought was thousands and thousands a month. Nobody thought was even possible. And a relatively short period of time after that, all of our hospitals were sent tens of thousands of ventilators, tens of thousands of ventilators. Great companies, very big companies, the car companies, very big companies. They did a fantastic job. They'd line up with a small ventilator company. And we make the best ventilators. I mean, they say they're the best. And they were sent all over our country. And think of it, and that was done so quickly. But these brilliant young people were able to do it. Regular people could, I mean, you could never do a thing like this. So we made thousands a month, and not one person, think of this, in our country, not one person who needed a ventilator didn't get a ventilator. How incredible is that? But they won't tell that story. That's not me, that's Jared and a whole group of very brilliant people, together with the military and with a lot of our great companies. We've had a tremendous relationship. It's the biggest mobilization since World War II, and it was an incredible job. Now what we're doing is we continue to make thousands a month, And we're sending them to foreign countries who are desperate for ventilators and would have no idea. There would be no way they could ever get them, including, I mean, we send them to France and we send them to Spain and Italy, but we send them to countries in Africa who are really having a terrible hard time. And we're sending thousands of them to other countries. And I just think it's a tremendous story. And it's something that we did that we're very proud of. And it's something that nobody talks about. You don't hear the word ventilators anymore. You know why you don't hear about it? Because we solved, there was a period of time, ventilators, for 3, 4, 5 weeks until they sent these super geniuses. And for 3, 4, 5 weeks, all you heard about was ventilators, ventilators, ventilators. Well, we took over something. The cupboards were bare. They were bare, or essentially bare, but they were bare. And the hospitals in the States, the cupboards were bare too. Nobody was prepared for a thing like this. They could have been, they should have been. But now all over the world we're sending them, and I think it's just a tremendous story, I really do. It's a story that's untold. You'll probably never hear about it again. And as soon as we started making all of these thousands of ventilators, you haven't heard the word ventilator. Just like, and there's one other quick story, the wall, the wall, the wall, that's all you heard. Trump promised the wall. Will he ever give the wall? The wall, the wall. And then now the wall is going to be completed very quickly. We have over 400 miles of wall built. And now you never hear the word wall. They never say, oh, he got the wall, he did it. And we built it exactly to the specifications of the Border Patrol. And they were tough specs, I will tell you. I said, how about concrete plank? No, sir, we need steel, we need rebar, and we also need concrete. Oh, that's great. But we got it built, and they have to have vision. They have to have slats because they have to be able to see through what's on the other side. You can't have, and once you realize this, I mean, they're right. So we built it to those specs. Very, very, I've done an incredible job. We're doing 10 miles a week. We'll be finished very soon. But you never hear about the wall anymore, Now, if it was a failure, if we couldn't get it done, it would be brutal. It would be a brutal time for you, President. Because of our relentless efforts, the recovery rate right now on COVID or the China virus or the China plague is 99.7%. Take the vote. 99.7%. And I'm here. I'm here. And these two great people whose property we're using today, what a historic property. And all I know is they said, we just drove up the road. They've been here a long time, but not as long as George Washington, right? But they've been here a long time, and they said, and many of you said, do you see the crowds along? It looks like Broadway, except it's slightly more picturesque. Slightly more picturesque. But it's thousands and thousands of people lined all the way down to the highways. It's incredible. And they're all waving flags. Most importantly, they're all waving flags and they're proud of our nation. And I guess it has something to do with Pennsylvania. I'm going to be here all day today. But no, it's a beautiful sight, and they were very proud. And thank you very much for everything you've done. We're allowing younger, healthier Americans to resume normal activities while strongly protecting the elderly and those at high risk. And we're making the powerful antibody treatment that I received available to anybody that needs it free. Free. Wasn't their fault. But I had that, and I didn't feel good. I said, what's going on? And test positive. And I'm the President of the United States. I couldn't bury myself in a basement of the White House, as nice as it is. I actually got to see it one time. It's very nice. Like you would expect. It's a beautiful basement. It's in the White House. Very solid basement. But I couldn't do that, and I couldn't put myself in a beautiful room upstairs, beautiful bedroom, and stay there for a year and a half. I'm the president. And I'd go to meetings, I'd say, that's a lot of people. And then one day that happens. And I said, I wasn't feeling good. And the doctor came in, and great doctors, great White House doctors, Sean, and They came in, they said, "Sir, you've tested positive." I said, "Tested positive for what?" And they said, "For COVID, for COVID." He actually used the term COVID. He's more politically correct than I am. I said, "That's not good." But I didn't feel good, and we went over to Walter Reed Medical Center, which is phenomenal. I see the work they do in young men coming back so bad, and women so badly wounded. I see what they can do, and nobody can do what they can do. And Johns Hopkins was great. We had a lot of doctors gathered around, but I didn't feel good. And they gave me something, Regeneron, and Eli Lilly makes a very similar kind of a thing. The concept is based on antibodies. And I woke up the next morning, and I felt so great. I wanted to rip that Superman shirt open. And I wanted to come back. I wanted to start doing a new trade deal and campaigning simultaneously. They said, "Sir, how about taking it easy for a couple of days?" But no, it's incredible. What we've been able to do is, and I don't even know, maybe, now I'm saying, well, probably wasn't the drug. It's just that I'm in such perfect physical condition. And I'm very young, if you're young. So I said that, and CNN got very upset right there. Their camera just went off, the light. They got upset. They said, "He is not young and he is not in perfect shape." I said, "I'm a great physical specimen." They didn't like it when I said that. They don't like those kind of things. No, but I don't know. Maybe I helped. I don't know. But I can tell you, it's incredible what they've been able to do. And I think it did help a lot, frankly, because I got out of there fast. I could have gone out a lot sooner, too. I wanted to go out almost immediately. They said, "Nice and easy, please, sir." And but it shows you, maybe I serve as an example. First Lady got it also, and she's better. She's perfect. And Barron Trump, right? Barron got it. My young boy, he's 14 years old, and my young tall boy, I say, he's very tall. He's a good guy, good-looking guy and strong, so he has it. They say, "Sir, Barron tested positive also." I said, "Wow." Then I go, this was at the beginning, I say to the doctor about 12 minutes later, "Doctor, how's Barron doing?" "Oh, he's okay, sir. He sloughed it off." I said, you know why? They're young and the immune system works. This is why I say, get back to school. Get back to school. Get back to school. Open up this state, Governor. Open up this state. And don't take advantage of those ballots, Governor. Don't do it. Don't do it. We will terminate the virus with science, medicine, and groundbreaking therapies and cures. I watched Joe Biden speak yesterday. All he does is talk about COVID. He's got nothing else to say. COVID. We agree. We agree. It's serious. So we've done an incredible job. And at some point, they're going to recognize that. At some point, I said we've done an A+ job, but I give ourselves a D or maybe an F in terms of public relations. But now I'll start talking about it a little bit. When Joe Biden was vice president, his failed approach on the swine flu was, as I said, a total disaster. And his chief of staff said that he had no idea what he was doing. I don't know why this guy said this. And now they're thinking about bringing him into the administration. I guess probably this was maybe before the flu came along or something, because I'm saying, why would he say this? He goes, quote, "We did every possible thing wrong. And 60 million Americans got H1N1, far less lethal, by the way, far less lethal. And in that period of time, and it's just purely fortuitous that this isn't one of the great mass casualty events in American history." This is Biden's chief of staff. Think of what he said. Where did this guy come? You're going to bring him back? It had nothing to do with anything we did. We didn't do anything right. Now think of this. And then he's saying, "We want to take over what you're doing," right? He says, we want to take over. Remember, he said when he first started running that I did a poor job because I didn't act fast enough. I acted in January. We had almost no deaths. Now think of this. And I said, China is heavily infected. They can't come in. And I went up against Dr. Fauci and others that said, no, you shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do it. I said, listen, they're infected, heavily infected. Let's close off China. So I did that. I closed off Europe. I did that. Saved, and Fauci would tell you, saved tens of thousands of lives, much more than that. And then when you think, okay, I mean, we saved thousands and thousands of lives. And then Biden is campaigning. And he was 2.5 months later, he said, we have to get tough. And he called me xenophobic because I closed. 2.5 months later, then he runs, and he said, he should have closed the country earlier. I said, I don't think he's going to get away with that. And let's see what happens on November 3rd, because if something happens that's wrong, where he did, then he did get away with that. Now, here's a guy, not the smartest guy out there, and he never was, but now in particular, he's not doing too well. But here's somebody that says that I didn't act early enough, and for 2.5 months he was scolding everybody, saying that they shouldn't have closed off China, they shouldn't have done, and that nothing bad is going to happen. But remember the statement from that was his chief of staff made that statement. We mourn for every life lost to the China virus, and in their memory, and their sacred memory, we truly do. We weep, we mourn. It should have never happened. We will defeat the virus and emerge stronger and more unified than ever before. That's all we can say. We're going to be more unified than ever before. Our economy is now surging back faster, better, bigger, and stronger than any nation on earth. We just had the best quarter of economic growth ever recorded. Ever recorded by more than double. A 33.1% increase, more than a great number from 1952. That was the number we bet, but more than double. And you know what? The press is refusing to talk about it. It's not even a major story. It was, one of the analysts said today, it was the greatest economic number that they have ever seen. Okay, GDP up 33.1%. That means it grew 33 in a quarter. And the press barely mentions it, not even on the front page of newspapers, because that's the game they play. It's suppression. That's why we have to win. We can't let them do this. We have to win. This was according to a certain very important person, and Larry Kudlow, who's a terrific guy, and other people. Sir, this is the greatest financial number probably ever recorded in our country. Think of that. That's a big statement. And double, more than double, a number from 1952. And it's barely covered. And that's only for one reason, because they want us to do very poorly on November 3rd. They don't want to tell the American public about this. The one advantage I do have is I do have a way of getting the word out. But it's very tough when they pick it up. Even this, they won't pick this up. I made a statement, strong statement. They won't pick it up because it's good news. They'll fabricate stories. They'll make up false stories. They'll put you at #1 on Twitter all the time. Stories that aren't trending. These stories are so boring. They'll make up, the Times will write false stories all the time, and they'll put them, and yet they won't talk about the Biden corruption. They won't talk about where's Hunter, and they won't talk about, don't feel bad, the cameras are all off, don't worry, we just lost the last camera, I'm sorry. But they won't talk about the fact that Hunter got $183,000 a month to sit on a board of Burisma and got $3 million, perhaps $3 million up front. They won't, who had no job, who had no experience in energy. They won't talk about the fact that the wife of the mayor of Moscow gave him $3.5 million, right? For what? They won't talk about the fact that the father went to China in Air Force Two. Where's Hunter was with him. I put his first name, his real first name is Ware. We're going to make it Ware. Where's Hunter was with him. And in 10 minutes, he walked out with $1.5 billion to manage, which is millions of dollars in fees, millions and millions. And they won't talk about the fact that he was going for the big one next with China. He asked for $10 million a year for introductory purposes. In other words, he was going to introduce people. $10 million a year. This is a payoff. That's all it is. And they won't talk about the fact that the father was the big guy. To me, he's not a big guy. He's not a big guy. Little guy. He's very slight. Remember when he said a year ago, he said, I'd like to take him to the back of the barn? That's okay. I went like this. I'll take him to the back of the barn. The glasses. Next year will be the greatest economic year in the history of our country if we don't raise taxes. If Joe Biden is elected, he will delay the vaccine, prolong the pandemic, close down schools, and impose a nationwide lockdown. That's what they're talking. Can you imagine going? And we're making the greatest comeback of any country by far, and they're actually talking. He's talking about a lockdown. He has no clue, but he's talking about it. That's his only plan, to make you a prisoner in your home, a prisoner in your own country. And under the Biden lockdown, the recovery will be totally killed. The economy will crash. Country can't afford it. The people can't afford it, but country can. Can you imagine? I mean, your state has to open up, too. All Democrat governors, you, Michigan, North Carolina, I mean, they're all Democrat governors. And they're probably doing it because they want to affect the election. You know, they're probably doing it by November 4th, they'll announce, we've decided to open up Pennsylvania. The Commonwealth of Pennsylvania will be opened on November 4th, you know. No, because it can't be. They can't be so stupid, what they're doing to people. And the countless people that will die from depression and drug overdoses and suicide and abuse and really a deferral of medical care. There'll be no school. There'll be no graduations. There'll be no weddings, no Thanksgivings, no Christmas, no Easters, no 4th of Julys. There'll be nothing. Will be nothing. And you know, one thing we've learned very recently, everyone likes the computers and the laptop, and we can learn from the computer. You don't have to go. Well, now we've given it the all-time mass test, right? A child being in a classroom, or if you're older, a campus, even a college campus. But a child being in a classroom cannot be replaced by a computer. It can't. It doesn't work. It's no good. And they're losing, you know, potentially years out of their life, and it's the important years. It's the development years. But the computers don't work. They're okay, but they're a small percentage, and that's come out loud and clear. Telehealth, great. It's been incredible. I think it's a 7,000 increase percent, and telehealth has been really great. It's going to have a great future, but not education. They have to be in their classroom with other students, and they have to find their way in life. And no future, this is no future for what they're doing in Pennsylvania, what they're doing in other states. This is no future for American youth. It's going to have a long-term impact on them. Biden's plan will destroy America. My plan will destroy the virus and make America greater than it's ever been. And the skyrocketing cases in Europe have shown draconian lockdowns, and that's what they are. They're draconian. Do not stop the virus. They've done it. Italy was so locked down. Now it's starting all over again. They just don't. It's a terrible thing that was unleashed on us. And we should never forget what happened. We should never, ever forget that China could have stopped it. They stopped it from going into the rest of China, but not from going to Europe, the United States, and the rest of the world. We can never forget it. But the far left is determined to lock down America because what they crave more than anything else is power and control over you. Joe Biden has made a corrupt bargain in exchange for his party's nomination. He has surrendered his party to the radical socialists left-wing extremists, anarchists, looters. Today's left tolerates no challenge and allows no dissent. You see that. They have it locked down. That's the ultimate lockdown. You can do horrible things, or you can do nothing wrong, and they'll put in phony stories. I'm actually a victim of the opposite. I'm just thinking of that while I'm talking to you. They do phony stories that are totally false, and they'll put them up, and there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do except explain it away. If you disagree with them, they try to humiliate you, smear you, and cancel you. Cancel culture, right? They control Joe Biden, and he's so easy to control, just like they control every Democrat House member and every senator. They purge newsrooms of reporters who do not swear allegiance to their false narratives. You've seen some reporters are extremely upset. They end up getting absolutely decimated. They censor stories that reveal the corruption of their chosen candidate. This is what's happened now, and nobody's ever seen anything like it. Everybody knows that it's incredible. Nobody's seen anything like it. You don't read anything. You go to the Times, there's no story in it. You go to the Washington Post, you go to ABC, you go to NBC, the worst of all, in my opinion, NBC. The home of The Apprentice made them a lot of money over the years, right? But they were bad. They were very bad. CBS has been terrible. CNN is just absolutely ridiculous. Thank goodness they have lousy ratings. Thank goodness. And MS, I call it MSDNC. How about MS? No, what they do is just absolutely, it's not even thinkable. It's not even to be believed. They totally close it down. And you can't have scandal when nobody's reporting about it. And the level of power is pretty incredible. And I heard this 4 years ago. Sir, you cannot compete with big tech. You cannot compete. The networks were against. It was the same group. And then I won. I said, see, they're not very powerful, but you know what? They are. And now they're at a level that nobody's ever seen before. Nobody, and they're blatant about it. Now they just say, we're doing it. We don't. New York Times, they apologized to their subscribers because they were losing tens of thousands of, after the last election, tens of thousands of subscribers, and they wrote a letter of apology. I couldn't believe it. And they really got good for about 2 weeks. And then they got worse than ever. I mean, it's every day a phony story after story after story. They have a story about taxes. I don't pay taxes. And I call my people, what do I pay? Oh, no, you pay many, many millions of taxes, sir. But you prepay your taxes. Oh. Well, why aren't they mentioned? I prepaid millions and millions of dollars of tax. I prepaid. That's worse than paying taxes. I'm prepaying. I say, why do we prepay so much? Because these are estimates. When you're negotiating taxes, these are estimates. You're prepaying estimates. How much? Many millions of dollars, millions and millions. But they don't do that. We call them, we tell them, and they say, well, that's prepaid. Well, prepaid is worse than... Right? I mean, how good is that? We're prepaying. But they don't put that in the story. These are very corrupt, very dishonest people. They tell you that rioters are peaceful protesters because you're not allowed to have. I had it yesterday in Minnesota where we're going to have over 25,000 people. And the governor of Minnesota, radical left Democrat, and the Attorney General, they said, no, the most you can have is 250 people. To my people, they said that. And so my people said, so we're going to close it down. We had thousands of people. I don't know, you probably all saw it last night. Tens of thousands. We're going to have 25, 30,000 people. And don't forget, they've done a terrible job in Minnesota where they let Minneapolis burn down. And they could have called us a lot sooner. We went in, took us about, 25 minutes to solve the problem. No, we could have gone in there. We were willing. We called them. We were willing to go there immediately instead of having everybody running away. And they have a very good police, or they had a very good police force, but they don't let them do what they have to do. And they shut it down. They said, no, you can't have 25,000, but you can have 250 people. And I said to my people, no, let's go. Let's speak in front of the 250 million. What I didn't know is that thousands of people were going anyway. They just went. They just won. And I think that had I done a regular rally with, because we're getting 25, 30,000 people, getting much more than that at some. Nobody's ever seen anything like this. Laura Ingraham had a show last night. She said, I've worked for everybody. I've worked for Reagan, and nobody's ever seen anything like what's happening. It's a great thing. It's an incredible thing. This is supposed to be a little special speech, but you've never seen anything like it. Nobody's ever seen it. And what happened is, I think because of what they did when they said, we're going to silence his voice, it turned out to be a much bigger voice. And I think we now are going to, 1972, Minnesota hasn't been won. Between Omar, Ilhan Omar, who, as you know, comes from Minnesota. I think Omar, a couple of other things, the riots. But I think what happened is they made this into a massive event, and people are tired of it. And I think we will win Minnesota. We were very close last time. And we should win it. When they let Minneapolis burn, we should win it. But I think we're going to win it. And again, 1972 was the last time. Can you believe that? I think we're going to do it. We'll find out. You're going to know in about, well, I hope based on the Supreme Court, they don't delay it too long. This decision yesterday, I will tell you, was not a good decision. Where you're allowed to wait days to count and days to have the final count. You're allowed to have time limits beyond November 3rd. So what does this mean? The whole world and our nation is going to be waiting and waiting and waiting to hear who won? No, you're going to be waiting. You're going to be waiting for weeks. And a very dangerous thing happens November 3rd, and now you have to wait and wait. And very bad things can happen with ballots during that period of November 3rd to whatever date they gave them, many, many days. So you're going to be watching on November 3rd. I think it's highly likely you're not going to have a decision because Pennsylvania is very big. And as you know, there was another state, but perhaps other states involved. This is a terrible thing that they've done to our country. And that's the United States Supreme Court I'm talking about. That is a terrible, political, horrible decision that they made. We're going to be waiting. November 3rd is going to come and go, and we're not going to know. And you're going to have bedlam in our country. And you're going to have this period of 9 days or 7 days or whatever it is. And many bad things. Ballots are going to be, oh, we just found 10,000 ballots. Oh, that's good. We just found another 10,000. This is a horrible thing that the United States Supreme Court has done to our country. And I say it loud, and I say it proud. We have to know who won. We have to know who won. They tell you the police officers are villains. This is the group. And they're heroes. No. They even tell you that your children must be indoctrinated to believe that the heroes who crossed the Delaware were driven by hatred and malice. They change your history. A vote for Joe Biden is a vote to give this radical movement absolute power and unchecked control over every aspect of American life. Joe Biden, he's not all there. You should get a little bit larger frame, don't you? No, there. You know, I know those glasses. You got to get a little. I'll tell him. He doesn't want to have people look at that surgery on the eyes. It didn't work out. Joe Biden and the socialist left are absolutely convinced of their own moral superiority. I don't know if he is but they are. They are. He isn't. Look, let's face it. He shot. Same time. Who said that? Who said that? That was exact timing, right? You copied me from another space. While their agenda devastates the poor and the American middle class will be devastated. They support crippling shutdowns that crush the blue-collar jobs while they stay home and work. They close down your schools, your children, while they hire private tutors for their children. They ban you from going to church while they let left-wing extremists burn down your church. You can only meet if it's a protest. So you know what we do? Like even in this state, I call this a protest. Otherwise, they don't let you leave. You can't go to church, right? You can't go to church. What they're doing to our churches and our synagogues and all of that is just terrible. You see what's going on. Even when the church wants to go into a field and stay apart, they say, no, you can't do that. You know, it's like a terrible thing. They lecture you on the need for open borders that flood your cities with illegal drugs and gangs while they themselves live in walled-off compounds. They want to defund your police and confiscate your guns simultaneously while they themselves are protected with armed guards. No, we will protect your Second Amendment 100%. There is only one way to preserve, protect, and defend the American way of life. You must show up on November 3rd, okay? Don't worry about the first or second, because I know you too well. The Biden-Harris economic policies of increasing taxes and regulations, biggest tax increase in the history of our country is what they're proposing, would pulverize our middle class. Their plan is projected to hammer the typical American family's income by over $6,500 a year in the Wall Street Journal. By contrast, I cut taxes and regulations at a level nobody's ever done before and raise middle-class families' incomes over $6,000 in just 3 short years. And that's not including energy, which is a tremendous. What we've done with energy is tremendous. Joe Biden has pledged a $4 trillion tax hike, socialized medicine, an avalanche of job-killing regulations, a return to globalist trade deals, and he vowed the total destruction of the Pennsylvania oil industry and fracking. Fracking is gone. Fracking is gone. And he said that loud and clear for a year until he realized that he has to win in Pennsylvania. But fracking is dead because their side, it's dead. You saw AOC go out and say, no, you can't say that when Biden switched. And he never had one question from the press for a year, and all of a sudden switch when you walk into Pennsylvania. Now, fracking would be dead. Joe Biden's plan to abolish American energy is an economic death sentence for Pennsylvania. A vote for Biden is a vote to ban fracking and to send your state into a nightmare of poverty and depression. That's what's going to happen. It's your single biggest industry by far, probably 1 million jobs one way or the other. And what it would do to our country, because our country has low energy costs. You and Texas and others. Think of Texas. He's running in Texas. We're doing very well in Texas, but if you believe the fake news, they'll tell you, oh, it's very close. It's not close at all. And it wasn't close 4 years ago. Think of Texas. It's very close. He's against oil, he's against guns, and he's against religion. And then they say, Texas is very close. Think of that, right? He's against oil, guns, and God. Texas is very close. Too close to call. I don't think so. I think Texas is going to be very strong for us. Can you imagine going into Texas, say, we're going to take your guns away, and by the way, we're going to close up every oil well that you have? Well, vote for me. Vote for Joe. I don't think so. I don't think so. If Biden wins, there will be no fracking, no oil, no natural gas, no jobs, and no future. Under Biden, gas prices will explode, family incomes will plummet, and the fracking industry will be outlawed forever. Forever. With your vote, I will cut middle-class taxes even more. I mean, we cut them at the highest level in the history of our country, even more. And you saw what it did. That's why we're coming back so quick, because we have a strong foundation, a base. And I will always defend and promote Pennsylvania energy, and there will be no more lockdowns. We're not going to have lockdowns. We will never lock down again. Joe Biden would appoint the most radical left-wing cabinet in history. Beto O'Rourke will be in charge of gun confiscation. Elizabeth Pocahontas Warren will be in charge of the United States Treasury, according to what they say. AOC +3 will run the climate policy. I wonder if she ever even took a course in climate. I don't think so. Because it's the... I didn't say it, you did. This can only happen in Pennsylvania. Don't forget, I went to school here. You know, he likes to throw around the Pennsylvania thing. Look at it differently. He abandoned Pennsylvania. He went to Delaware, but I'm not blaming him. He was 9 years old or something, so we can't blame him for that, right? But he left Pennsylvania. Now, I went to school in Pennsylvania, as you know. Representative Ilhan Omar will be running Homeland Security. How do you like that? Who knows? I just said that one, but you know what? I wouldn't be surprised. Ladies and gentlemen, we're pleased to announce Ilhan Omar to run national security. She's going to be guarding our border, where we just had the best numbers we've ever had, by the way. People can come into our country. We want them to come in. They have to come in legally, and they have to come in through merit. Just imagine the insanity that will ensue if Pelosi is Speaker, Schumer is crying Chuck, Majority Leader, Kamala Harris. She makes Bernie Sanders look like a very strict conservative. You have Kamala, got to say the name exactly right or they excoriate you. So you have Kamala running the White House. Well, she already said that, right? She said that it's the Harris-Biden administration. He actually said that was scary. He said, under the Harris, I never did that. I never said under the Pence-Trump administration. And I love Mike Pence. You know what? But I said, Mike, that far we can't go. But I never said. But he said it, you know, he made a mistake. He also said he's running for the U.S. Senate 2 or 3 times. He said, I'm a proud Democrat. This is like 3 or 4 times. I'm a proud Democrat running for the U.S. Senate. I want you to. And we said, no, Joe, you're running for president. Oh, okay. Is this whole thing, I mean, can you believe that this could only happen to me? And how are you doing? We're tied. We're tied. How the hell? How can I be tied? We're tied. He said 4 times. The other thing he does badly. Haven't done it yet. I hope I never do. But he'll be making a speech in Ohio. Ladies and gentlemen of Iowa, it's proud to be. The worst is when he's making one in Miami with the palm trees. The beautiful palm trees. Ladies and gentlemen of Ohio. No. No, he's made that many times. And you know what I always say? Winston Churchill was a great, great orator, right? Amazing orator. Amazingly, because he was a stutterer in his life. He was a stutterer in his life, became a great orator. You could give a speech equal to the best that he's ever made. And if you made the mistake in saying, welcome, like we're in Pennsylvania, it's great to be in New York. It doesn't matter how good your speech is. It's over. Just walk off. It's over. But he does it all the time, and nobody even says it. No, he is shot. Under my leadership, we achieved, and he's not a nice person. You know what, if he were a nice person? They do commercials on me that are so false, like with the soldiers. That's the biggest insult to me of anything that's probably ever happened, like with the soldiers and other things. They're so false, based on a phony magazine, an Obama-type magazine that's doing badly. They did a commercial, and we notified them, and we had 26 witnesses, real witnesses, and every one of them is furious. But he's not a nice person. So because he's not a nice person, I don't mind saying exactly what I'm saying, which, as you know, is the truth. He was never considered smart in his prime. But now he's really off. And you can't have him as your president because he'll destroy our country. He'll destroy our country. And it probably won't be him because by the time he gets sworn in, he'll be pretty much like it'll be over. 25th Amendment, you think they were talking about me? No, they weren't talking about me. When she brought that up, they're talking about how to get Kamala in there as fast as possible. And nobody treated him worse than her. If you looked at the debate, now Kamala was failing fast. You know, she was going down like a rock. Normally you pick somebody that's going up, not one that... She didn't even make it to Iowa, right? But nobody spoke worse about him, and that's the one that they picked. But they want to get the radical left. They'd love to get her in, and that will be a very, I don't know if you can ever come back from a thing like that. You know, I'm not sure that a country, you look at Venezuela, you look at what's going on, where it was the richest, it was so great 20 years ago, and now they don't have food, they don't have water, they don't have medicine. Under my leadership, we achieved the most secure border in American history, the wall. Biden's plan to admit unlimited low-wage foreign workers will slash incomes, surge unemployment, and devastate the middle class, all to enrich the globalist donors. As president, my only special interest is you. That is true. My only special interest. To protect our national security, I also suspended the entry of refugees from foreign nations compromised by terrorism. Just call up President Macron, as I do often, and ask him what's happening over there. You saw those horrible attacks, more than one. We're keeping radical Islam the hell out of our country. Biden has pledged a staggering 700% increase in refugees. This is a deal made between Biden and Bernie Sanders, Crazy Bernie. The manifesto, we call it. This is a document, a very thick document, naming things that they're all horrible. But they've agreed 700% increase in refugees from the most dangerous and violent terrorist hotspots anywhere on earth, including Syria, Somalia, and Yemen. These are some of the most dangerous places in the world. 700% increase. This is agreed to. This isn't like, oh, this is talk. This is a manifesto. It's a document. He's also vowed to terminate our national security travel bans, allowing for unlimited migration from war zones and terrorist havens. Biden's extreme migration policies will open the floodgates to terrorists, jihadists, and violent extremists. You don't have to vote. I didn't vote on November 3rd. Under my administration, you know, I had the ban passed, right? And it was approved by the United States Supreme Court. There, they did the right thing. Under my administration, the safest of our families will always come first. Safety. We want safety. Has to come first. Secretary of Defense. Just so you understand. They're not big. They're like 22 people, 18 people. For months, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been inciting violence against police officers and riots like those carried out by Biden supporters in Philadelphia. Look at what's going on in Philadelphia. They should call us into Philadelphia. We'll solve the problem. Or let their police handle the problem. Let their police handle the problem. If elected, the Democrat ticket will pass legislation to end cash bail, create sanctuary cities nationwide, and to fund police departments all across America. In a second term, we will increase funding for law enforcement. We will hire more tough-on-crime prosecutors to put violent offenders behind bars. For 47 years, Joe Biden betrayed African Americans at every turn. He took your votes, he took you for granted, and then he shipped away your jobs and flooded your cities with cheap foreign labor. He devastated black families with his 1994 crime bill that really locked up tens of thousands of African American men with unfair sentencing, and he called African American young men super predators all the time. He would say super predators, a name that has always been something. There has been no name that they've hated more. They hated it with Hillary Clinton, and they hate it with Joe Biden. super predator, the term super predator. That was his term. He forged close relationships with pro-segregation lawmakers, and his trade deals decimated the black middle class. Joe Biden cares more about refugees living thousands of miles away than he does about black Americans living in Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Detroit, Baltimore, Oakland. He's done nothing. And then he says to me, oh, we should do this. I said, Joe, again, always, it's so easy. 47 years, but he left. It was only 3.5 years ago. So this wasn't a long time ago. I reversed the injustice of Biden's crime bill by signing landmark criminal justice reform, prison reform. And under our recently announced Platinum Plan, we will create 3 million new jobs for black Americans, increase access to capital, restore safety to every neighborhood, and we will deliver school choice to every parent in America. School choice. And I'm also fighting every day for Hispanic Americans. This week I announced our American Dream Plan, and we're doing very well with Hispanic Americans. You see that? They're saying, what's going on in Florida, right? They like me and I like them. And we're doing very well with the black community. They like me now. They're getting to know me better, but I've always liked them. The American Dream Plan, which creates over 500,000 new Hispanic-owned small businesses and jobs, and going to be fantastic for our Hispanic Americans, great people. My administration is also standing proudly with the people of Cuba, Nicaragua, and Venezuela in their righteous fight for freedom. Biden sided with the brutal socialist and communist regimes. You saw what he did. You saw that horrible deal that was made with the United States by Obama and Biden. I don't think Biden probably was too involved. You want to know the truth. Keep him out. But it was a terrible deal. It was like the Iran deal. Here's $150 billion for nothing. As long as I'm president, America will never be a socialist country. Will never be. This year, I've laid out the boldest and most ambitious second-term agenda in history. We will create 10 million new jobs in the first 10 months. 2021, we will have 10 million jobs. Over the next 4 years, we will make America into the manufacturing superpower of the world. We will expand opportunity zones. We will bring home our medical supply chains. They're all coming home. And we will end our reliance on China once and for all. We will defend religious liberty, the right to life, and the right to keep and bear arms. And we will restore patriotic education to our schools. In our debate last week, Joe Biden said that America has, quote, never, ever lived up to our founding ideals, right? And he said it was an idea. It was just an idea that America's a great country. The United States is a great country. It's not an idea. It's a great country. Pennsylvanians know the truth more than most when you think of the great history of this state. From Washington's Crossing and Independence Hall in Philadelphia to the Quakers who ran the Underground Railroad, from the Union soldiers who lay at the rest, and you lay at rest. They lay at rest in Gettysburg. What a place, Gettysburg, one of the most beautiful places, and so gruesome for a period of time. Never fight uphill, my boys, right? He said, never fight uphill, me boys, never fight uphill. They fought uphill. To the workers of Bethlehem and Allentown who forged the steel that won World War II, America is the story of everyday citizens who have given everything to help this country live up to the highest ideals. My fellow citizens, you deserve a president who believes in America, a president who loves our country, and a president who loves you. Everybody knows that Joe Biden is not equipped to lead America. To Republicans, Democrats, and independents across this state, across this nation, I am asking for you to honor me with a vote that's going to make our nation greater than ever before. I will continue to fight for you with every breath in my body. And with your support on Tuesday, we will show the world that for our country and for our children and for the incredible people of Pennsylvania, the best is indeed yet to come. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.